Do you need to check this to see if we're all good? We're good, sound? Okay. All right. Well, we'll slowly go ahead and get started in case anybody wanders in. We're going to be on the back end of Mark 4, and because I want to finish up, because we roll into this new day, and I want us to kind of see how this all plays out. You can see at the beginning, and come back to Mark 4, and you can see how this begins. In Mark 4, starts off, and he began to teach by the sea, or next to the sea, and a very large crowd gathered around him. So he got into the boat on the sea and sat down, right? So this is the way the day starts, all right? And with the previous chapter, we had him saying, hey, somebody have a boat prepared just in case I need it. And what that would mean was he would be on the shore. It's on the Sea of Galilee. So if you're thinking Israel, you've got the Sea of Galilee up at the top. You've got the Jordan River that kind of meanders down into the Dead Sea, all right? And Jerusalem's down here. Capernaum is on the top end, or the top half of the, sort of at 12 o'clock on the Sea of Galilee, okay? And so he's there. The crowds are everywhere around him. And so when he would go and teach by the sea, it would be real simple for him to, the people could just continue to crowd and crowd and crowd. And so he says, hey, get me a boat, come off the water about, 10, 12 feet or something. And so the people wouldn't stand in the water or stand in the boat with him. That way he could kind of get a little distance. There's a guy who points out that there is a place called Sower's Cove, which evidently is located somewhere near Capernaum, that is almost like a natural amphitheater right off the water. And so I won't say a lot. This guy makes the suggestion, like Michael Card always says, that I suggest this to you, that this could be true. He makes the suggestion that when he tells the parable of the sower, he's there at this Sower's Cove, where it's just a farming area, but it has this natural amphitheater kind of thing to it. Who knows if it's true or not? All right, sounds good. Sounds like a good thing to do. And he tells parables, and he goes through these. So this is all the beginning of this day. And this is where, when you get to verse 35, 4:35, you can see it says, on that day, when evening had come, or literally it had become, all right? So it's becoming evening, all right? He told them. Now, when evening comes, what happens to light? This is important, all right? So what happens? It gets dark. Okay, good. Y'all are paying attention. Okay, so when evening had come, he told them, let's cross over to the other side of the sea, all right? Now, what lighting would there be when evening comes and you're on the sea? Stars. Moon? Maybe, all right? The night Ashley and I got engaged, we got engaged at the beach, all right? And I thought, this will be awesome. We'll have this wonderful moonlit night, and the stars will be out. Well, it just happened to fall on the no moon night, and it was pitch black. We could hardly see each other. There was a house probably about 500 yards away with a single bulb on the back porch. And that was the only light we had on this whole beach. And she was like, I'm not getting out of the car. There's scary stuff. There may be robbers down there. And I'm going, hey, there's not robbers here, because they wouldn't have anything to do. So I had to piggyback her down about 100 yards down the beach. I was worn out by the time we got down to the beach. So, but yeah, we don't know, but there's not much light. Okay, so I want you to get this feel. You're in a boat. The boat is probably 25 feet. We found one of these boats in 1986. It had been sunk and been preserved in the mud there right off the Sea of Galilee. And so it was about 25 feet. It had a hull of about 7 to 8 feet, all right? And it would usually have a platform where you could stand and cast the net. And they said Jesus was probably asleep underneath that platform, all right? So think, 7 feet to the bottom, and then you've got this platform you could stand on. So there's a lot of room in this thing. So when it says then Jesus was asleep, he's probably tucked up under that thing, okay? And so it was enough room for the 12 plus Jesus to be in this boat comfortably, okay? So, but it's dark, all right? And you're on the water, okay? So Evening had come, so they left the crowd and took him along since he was already in the boat, all right? And other boats were with him, okay? Again, Mark writes this down because Peter kind of throws this in, but he never comes back to it. We never have any reference back to these other boats or anything like that. So it's an odd little Mark throw in that Peter probably just, there are other boats with us. I don't know what happened to them. All right, it just kind of goes on with it. 37. Now, here's where I wanted you to see and hear. It's evening, it's dark, and they're in a boat on the Sea of Galilee. Okay? Now, what you also have to remember, Sea of Galilee is one of the lowest freshwater lakes in the world, if not the lowest. All right? And the mountains around it. We have the Sermon on the Mount because everything outside of the Sea of Galilee just goes up because you're so low. Okay? So you have this mountain chain that runs around it. So when a wind or a storm comes over, it almost rolls downhill at you. Okay? So it's a really scary place. 37. So it's dark, it's nighttime, you're in a boat in the middle of a lake, all right? A fierce windstorm arose, all right? This is a megas windstorm arose, and the waves were breaking over the boat, all right? Now, this word breaking is epibalo, means they were almost throwing into the boat. Okay, so you're in a boat. It's about 25 feet long, 7 feet deep, all right, to the bottom of this thing, all right? And the waves are being thrown onto, this is the way Paul or Peter describes it, Mark writes it down. It's being thrown onto. Epi means on, balo means to throw. So the waves are being thrown onto or into, ice is the word, into the boat, okay? How you feeling at this point? Fierce wind, all right? And the waves are being thrown into your boat, which amazes me that Jesus is asleep through all of this. I wouldn't be asleep, okay? So is there any fear that comes along with this? Okay. Now, again, what's the profession of most of the disciples? All right. Are they used to this? Are they used to this measure of storm? What do they come yelling to Jesus about? We are going to die. They don't go to him, yeah, we've been here before. This is just a storm. Did they go, hey, it's really stormy out here. Hadn't been in one of these in a couple of months. No, what do they say? This is a once-in-a-lifetime event because I might die in this. That's what they were afraid of. Do you think they had any friends who had died in storms like this? Yeah, that's how they know they might just die in this. And so there's a lot of apprehension going on here, okay? So a fierce windstorm arose. The waves were breaking into, not over, because that would be weird for the wave to go all the way over the boat. So it's breaking into ice, into the boat, so that the boat was already being swamped. This is just a simple word for filled. So the boat is filling up with water. Okay? Now, what are the disciples doing at this point, besides panicking? Trying to bail, they're doing what they're supposed to do. They're doing what fishermen would do in this area, but they are scared to death, all right? So they're bailing. It's already being swamped, but Jesus, was in the stern, all right, or in the back, sleeping on the cushion. Just asleep. They are panicking. How do you sleep through this? I don't know. I'm a good sleeper, all right? I'm like, before my head hits the bottom of the cushion of the pillow, I'm out. I'm gone, all right? So I can sleep, but he's sleeping through this whole thing. So they woke him up and said to him, Teacher, watch this, don't you care that we die? What do you see there? Why are they questioning? They aren't questioning, why are you letting this happen? Don't you care? That's the question. That's the question that Peter heard, that he relayed to Mark, and that's what Mark wrote down. Don't you care? Do we ever ask that? When the storms are raging, The waves are breaking into the boat. We're being swamped. We think we are going to die, and we pray what? God, don't you care? Is that an okay prayer? I always say, just be honest when you pray. It's not like you're going to fool God. I mean, just be flat honest when you pray. God, I feel like you don't care right now. God's not going, well, that hurt my feelings. I'm not going to talk to you today. I'm not going to talk to you anymore. He'd probably go, you don't listen anyway. Don't you care? How do you think Jesus felt about that? Yeah? What else? Angry? That combination plays out a lot, I think, in Jesus' ministry. Yeah, the temptation to me is, well, I don't now. I'm going to go back to sleep. You woke me up for this? I've taught this in the past, and I always titled the sermon, Spooning with Jesus. I said, what should they have been doing? Don't do that to me. The wife eye roll. I got that again. Yeah, spooning with Jesus. What should Peter have done? Hey, Jesus is good. I'm good. Just go spoon with Jesus in there. Sound asleep. No. They woke him up. Teacher, don't you care? And how did he answer? What did he say back to him? Not a word. That's where I think you get that sad and angry thing. Yeah. He just goes, 39. He got up, rebuked the wind. This is the word literally for rebuke, like stop, like what you do to your dog. No, you know better than that. Don't do that. He literally is rebuking the wind. Why is the wind going, I'm sorry? I mean, that's the picture you get, is that's how you should respond when someone rebukes you. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that. And the wind's just being the wind, but he rebukes the wind. So a lot of people have this idea that the word wind and the word spirit are the same word. It's the word pneuma, spirit and wind, same idea. All right. And so some people make the assertion or the suggestion that this was a demonic force coming against them to try to destroy them and try to destroy Jesus. So when it says he rebuked the wind, it's almost as if he's casting out the demon in the wind. You can go with that. That's a little bit of a stretch, but not bad, all right, because that spirit idea would come into play. He got up, rebuked the wind, and said to the sea. He didn't rebuke the sea. He just talks to the sea. He rebukes the wind. He says to the sea, silence, be still. The wind ceased, and there was great calm. Okay, remember, it's dark. You can't see anything, all right? You're in a boat with 12 other guys. The waves are literally breaking in. You think you're going to die. Jesus is asleep. You ask him, don't you care? He doesn't say a word back to you. He just says, stop. And all of a sudden, it goes from, we're going to die in the middle of a hurricane, to glass. You ever been on that glassy sea before? All right, that's good water skiing. Water right there. That's what I always picture when I see it. That's just water skiing right there. How quickly does it go from hurricane force winds, you think you're going to die, to silence, be still, to okay, now it's dark and you can't see much, but you saw that. How you feeling if you're one of the disciples? Remember, we're only in like chapter 4 out of 16. We're still pretty early in this game. They've seen Jesus do some pretty cool miracles and stuff, but they haven't seen him touch nature. I mean, you watch Benny Hinn or whatever, and they, slap the guy on the head, and he starts, oh, I can walk now. You're going, I hope you're a little suspect when you see that on TV, all right? The wind and the waves going crazy, and all of a sudden this guy says, stop it, behave, and it does. that's something you haven't seen yet. That's a whole nother level. All right? So keep going with it. 40. Then he said to them, now he's going to talk, why are you fearful? And this word is the word for Delia. Paul's letter to Timothy says, God has not given us a spirit of fear, timidity, cowardice. He's not saying, why were you afraid of the wind and the waves and the boat and all this stuff? He's not asking why they were afraid of their circumstances. He says, why are you so cowardly? Why is fear something that dominates your life so quickly? Again, he's not talking about these circumstances. He's talking about their heart. Why does your heart go to cowardice so quickly? All right? Because he says, why are you fearful? Why are you cowardly? Do you still have no faith? You see, faith is the remedy for your cowardly nature. Faith is not the remedy when a bear is chasing you. You don't go, I just have faith, mauled by the bear, okay? But faith is the remedy for that timidity in your heart and the cowardly nature you have within you. Again, not circumstances, just your nature. And having faith cures that. It remedies that. It helps you to understand what you need to fear and what you don't need to fear. And it eliminates all those little petty, cowardly fears that we have. Just think it's really interesting that we put it in the context of, why were you afraid that you were going to die? That's not it. Just why are you fearful? Why are you timid? All right? And are they going to need this later on? I mean, what happens to pretty much all the disciples? They're all martyred, except for John, who's might as well be. Probably would have been better off if he had been martyred. All right? They're going to face fear. So courage is a very important thing for them. 41. And they were terrified. Why now? They were terrified. Yeah, they thought they were going to die. But it says in 41, after the sea is calm, everything's cool, Jesus says, why are you so timid? Why are you so cowardly? Do you still have no faith? Now they're terrified. Now, it's phobos, megos. They were scared to death. Now why are they scared now? Is Jesus scared now? No. But they are. And they ask one another, who then is this? Even the wind and the sea obey him. What are they afraid of now? Him. That guy. They are, in the word, this word phobos is, we get our natural word fear for this. All right? But it can also imply reverence. Reverence like God on Mount Sinai reverence, not, oh yeah, I revere the flag. All right? This is reverence of, that one can crush me at any moment. It's an awe-inspiring fear. So now they're afraid, which I just think is amazing, because they were afraid of dying. Now they're terrified. Phobos. They had a fear. They feared with a fear of greatness. That's kind of what the literal interpretation would be to this. All right. How do you think the rest of the trip goes across to the other side? Quiet. I kind of go with I think they kind of teased each other a little bit, because it's a 12 teenage to 20-something-year-old guys in a boat, and they just messed in this boat, and they're scared to death, and somebody was screaming, right? So you got to mess with that guy. I don't know. I think Thomas was pretty chill, but he was scared to death. He just didn't want to say anything. That's just my view of Thomas. All right? John, John was crying. John's the youngin' in the group. He was crying. Get me out of here. Shut up. James is picking on him, telling him. So, but at the same time, they're terrified, so maybe it was silent. Maybe they're just sitting there in awe. Chapter 5, ready? Then they came to the other side of the sea, into the region of the Gerasenes. Okay, now this would be across, so the Sea of Galilee, again, a circle, Capernaum's up top. This is Jewish area. If you get over here on the west side, it's not Jewish anymore, okay? And you'll see that because we have 2,000 pigs, okay? That's generally not a good thing for a Jewish community, all right? They come to the region of Gerasenes. As soon as, what's our word? Immediately, he got out of the boat. As soon as he got out of the boat. Now, you got to take all this in one moment. As soon as he got out of the boat. Now, how are the disciples feeling about getting out of the boat? They okay with getting out of the boat at this point? Yeah. Kissing the ground. Thank you. We made it across the sea. That was crazy. And then he did that, and it was scared and still a little nervous to get out of the boat. Immediately he got out of the boat. A man with an unclean spirit came out of the tombs and met him. All right? This is this confrontational meeting. This is not a, hey, how are you doing? It's nice to meet you. All right? This is the at the rapture, we will meet the Lord in the air. It's this meeting of coming together, kind of an idea. All right? He lived in the tombs. No one was able to restrain him anymore, even with chains, because he often had been bound with shackles and chains, but had snapped off the chains and smashed the shackles. No one was strong enough to subdue him, and always, night and day, he was crying out among the tombs and in the mountains and cutting himself with stones. When he saw Jesus from a distance, he ran and knelt before him, and he cried out with a loud voice, "What do you have to do with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I beg you before God, don't torment me." For he had told him, "Come out of the man, you unclean spirit." Okay? Now, I read that fast because, and you didn't really get a feel for this guy. Because you're coming up on the shore, maybe the sun's coming up, maybe it's getting light, and like I said, you're getting out of the boat, you're like, oh, can't believe we made it. We didn't die. And you're getting out of the boat. And about that time, you look. There's a naked man running at us. And got his hair going all over the place. And he's jingling. And he's coming right at us. That man's pretty scary looking. And he's naked. He's running fast. He's getting close. Can you imagine what the disciples are doing? Back in the boat, back in the boat, back in the boat. Let's go. All right. And Jesus is just sitting there, just watching his beloved creature, his child, possessed by this unclean spirit, coming towards him. Now, do you think the disciples are scared? Again? This is a long day. It's a hard day for the disciples. It really is. And that's why I love telling this all in one kind of line of thought. Because if you divorce the wind and the waves away from the Gerasene demoniac, you're not getting the whole story here. So he's running up, and all of a sudden Jesus says, "Come out of him, you unclean spirit. What do you have to do with me?" You see, they kind of flip it. I hate that. I wish they wouldn't have done that. But what do you have to do with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? Now, what happens every time somebody says that? What happens every time a demon says that? Quiet. The messianic secret idea. You see that a lot in Mark, all right? I beg you before God, don't torment me. So the other translations say, don't send me to the abyss. It's not my time yet. It's not the appointed time yet. It's kind of implied in there, all right? Verse 9 says this, "What is your name?" he asked him. "My name is Legion," he answered, "because we are many." And he kept begging him not to send him out of the region. Verse 11. It's my bad pastor dad joke. I'll get to it. "Now a large herd of pigs was there feeding on the hillside. The demons begged him." We see a lot of begging here. All right, you'll pick that up. It's about 5-6 times. The demons begged him, "Send us to the pigs so we may enter them." And he gave them permission. Then the unclean spirits came out and entered the pigs, and the herd of about 2,000 pigs. Have you ever seen 2,000 pigs grazing on a hillside before? I'm like, do they even do that? I don't know. I don't know if pigs actually graze or whatever they do, all right? You can tell I ain't from around here, all right? And herd about 2,000 rushed down the steep bank into the sea and drowned there. again, you get this picture of the sea is this bad place. It's the abyss. It's the place where you go down into the sea. That's sort of a Jewish thing. You don't have a real Israeli Navy. They don't like the Navy, all right? Just let's stay on land. Land's good, all right? And this is what I refer to as a suicide. Oh, come on. That's not that bad. Come on. Yeah, it is bad. All right. So they committed suicide, all right, for all you Arkansas folks out there, all right? Now, here's what I like, okay? Because you got this scene over here. You got Jesus with the Gerasene demoniac. All of a sudden, the demons leave, and they, like, transport way over here to these pigs, the pigs off into the sea. The men who tended them. Now, imagine being a pig tender, pig herder, whatever that is. I don't even know what that would look like. You're just standing there with your staff, and you're watching your pigs just running around. And all of a sudden, they get this crazy look in their eye and just take off for the cliff, and 2,000 pigs just are gone. And you're looking at each other going, what do we do now? So the men who tended them ran off and reported it in the town. I'd run off too, into the town in the countryside. And the people went to see what had happened. You think? 2,000 pigs just jumped off the cliff, and that guy did something, so let's go find him. 15, they came to Jesus and saw the man who had been demon-possessed by the legion sitting there. All right, when's the last time this man sat down? Sitting there, dressed and in his right mind. And they were afraid. Same exact word from Jesus when they're in the boat. And now they're afraid. Now they come and they see this man. Now, were they afraid of the man before? I mean, they tried to shackle him. They tried to do everything with him. He's crazy. He's cutting himself. He lives in the tombs. I mean, imagine when you hear this man crying out at night. Is that, what do you do with your kids at that point? Oh, it's okay. It's just crazy man that lives in the tombs that cuts himself. We can't bind him. He's too strong for all of us. That's got to be a scary thing. But now, what's he doing? Is he naked, running around, cutting himself? No, he's sitting. He's dressed, and he's in his right mind. And now they're afraid. Again, is Jesus afraid? No. Is the man afraid? Can you imagine what it's like to finally be in your right mind after all that? But they're afraid. The eyewitnesses described to them what had happened to the demon-possessed man and told about the pigs. Can you imagine going home that night? Honey, you won't believe what happened today. Sitting there, naked man, running out there, boom, legion, pigs off the cliff. He's like, you got to quit drinking at work, all right? That's it, no more, all right? 17, then they began to beg him to leave their region. Why would you beg Jesus to leave? Why? Why would you do that? Does that make any sense whatsoever? No, well, yeah, he did mess up their normal. That their normal was a little bit screwed up. Do we prefer our normal? Wow. Okay. Literally. That you would rather have that than... And they were afraid, and that's what I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm agreeing with you because they were afraid when their normal changed. But I agree. I think we do that in our own life. I can explain my normal. I mean, I'm thinking, okay, can you stay right here? Because I've got this uncle back at the house. I mean, like in Capernaum, they line up everybody in the whole region, get everybody healed. And the text implies Jesus would have stayed. It didn't say, let's go across and cast out a demon, send some pigs over the cliff, and then let's leave. Jesus said, let's get out of here for a while. Let's go stay over here in the Gerasenes. All right. 18. As he was getting into the boat, the man who had been demon-possessed kept begging him to be with him. I want to stay with you, Jesus. You rescued me. You freed me. You saved me. And this is fascinating. But he would not let him. Jesus says, no, you can't come with me. Instead, he told him, go back home. Go back to your house, literally your oikos, your house, into your own people, and report to them how much the Lord has done for you and how he has had mercy on you. Why do you not want to do that in the first place? I mean, think about this man. Does he want to go home? What happens when he goes home? What's at home? Who's at home? I mean, what happens when you get demon-possessed? What happens at your house? Does that go over well? I think Magdalene is a very similar case. I mean, Magdalene had 7 demons cast out of her. I think that's why she's still at the tomb when Jesus comes and talks to her. Because Peter and John go where? Home, to their house. But Magdalene stays there. Where's she going to go? Does she have a home to go to? I think this is a very similar case. And so the man's like, please let me go with you. Please let me go with you. Jesus, no, you need to go home. Do you think he went, oh yeah, never mind? I think this was hard. Because you're going to have a lot of explaining to do. And this is going to be a difficult time. And I think we're all in the same boat in a lot of ways. We all have a past that we would rather run away from than confront. And Jesus kind of says, no, you need to go home. You need to let the people see what can happen when God takes over and fixes things. So he does. So he went out and began to proclaim in the Decapolis. Decapolis literally means 10 cities. All right, Deca is 10, polis is a city. How much Jesus had done for him, and they were all amazed. What if he doesn't go home? What happens to those people? They never hear. All right. Sometimes we got to go to the hard places so the message can spread. All right. So Jesus is getting in the boat, heads back, I believe, back to Capernaum, back where he started from. All right. When Jesus had crossed over again by boat to the other side, a large crowd, here we go again, a large crowd gathered around him while he was by the sea. 22, one of the synagogue leaders named Jairus came, and when he saw Jesus, he fell at his feet and kept begging him. Here we go again. Do you see that? Beg. What's that? I think that's the 5th time we've seen that right there. And he kept begging him, my little daughter is, and I don't know, did your translation say at death's door? Is dying? I don't know why they go here with this. It's the phrase eschatos echo, which means last things having. At death's door, it may be a literal translation from Luke that they just pulled over. She has her last moments. It's almost the same. She's in her last moments. She doesn't have much time left. So I don't know. The death's door is just brought in from other texts, so don't get weird about that. Now, here's where I want to paint the picture a little bit. All right. So Jesus is teaching. All right. He's teaching all these parables. He's doing all this stuff. He's sitting in the boat. That evening, he says, let's go over to the other side, to the Gerasenes, the region of the Gerasenes. They have this moment on the beach, probably early that morning. He sends the people into the pigs. The pigs go over the cliff. He heals this guy. Please let me go. Please let me go with you. No, you go back home and they beg him. They say, you got to go because we're afraid of you. So, all right, we'll go back across. Okay? Now, in the midst of all this going on around the sea, okay, there's been a 12-year-old girl who's getting sicker and sicker and sicker. And her father, Jairus, is a synagogue ruler. He's a archos, which means just a leader, a first. First is a good way of saying it. Your arch rival is your number one rival, your arch nemesis, number one. So he's number one in the synagogue. And his little girl is dying. His 12-year-old girl is dying. All right? So Jesus down here teaching, she's getting sicker and sicker and sicker and sicker. Now, Jesus has a reputation, right? What happens when you bring sick people to Jesus in Capernaum? Everybody gets healed, right? Like Peter, Peter's going to brag on it was this big, all right? Everybody gets healed. Why hasn't Jairus brought his daughter to Jesus yet? He's right there at the shore teaching. What's he doing? Why doesn't he bring his daughter to Jesus? Not desperate enough yet. A little proud? Has Jesus had a little confrontation with these guys? That's that guy that came into the synagogue on the Sabbath. Healed that guy. He's not supposed to. He's not real. He's got Beelzebub in him. He's casting out demons by demons. She gets sicker and sicker and sicker until he comes and looks for Jesus. And I kind of fictionalize this. He comes down to the shore to find Jesus finally. And where's Jesus? Now, what do you do if you're Jairus? Do you wait at the docks, or do you stay with your dying daughter? Because Jesus is coming back. I mean, this was their culture. It wasn't like he was moving there. He said that. You read the text. Let's go to the other side. He'll be back. But what do you do if you're Jairus? Stay at the docks? Go to your house. Your 12-year-old daughter is dying. What do you do? Back and forth? Do you trust anybody to stay here for you? Do you want to be here if she were to die? Do you want to leave her side to go find Jesus who can save her? Do you feel the anxiety here? What do I do? What do I do? And Jesus comes back. And I wonder if Jairus is sitting. The text almost implies, the other Gospels imply it even stronger, that Jairus was right there at the docks waiting on him. This one says, had the idea that Jairus comes back to him. He gets there. What's the first words out of Jairus' mouth? Not in the text, in your heart, if you're Jairus. So glad you're here. Or, where have you been? I needed you. And I need you right now. My daughter has her last moments. Her eschatology is the study of last things, all right? She's in her last moment. Where have you been? So 22 again, here we go. One of the synagogue leaders, all right, Archos, the first, named Jairus, came, and when he saw Jesus, he fell at his feet and kept begging him, my little daughter is at death's door. Come and lay your hands on her so she can get well, sozo, be saved, literally is the word saved, and live, Zoe. All right? He just wants her to live. Just come lay your hands on her. He has a lot of faith now, doesn't he? Or does he? What do you got to lose? What do you got to lose? So Jesus went with him. See how quick that was? Did Jesus even say anything? All right, let's go. It wasn't like Jesus went, well, I see that you have faith now that you can move a mountain. I'll come with you. No, he didn't say anything. He goes, all right, let's go. And I think sometimes we need to hear that because sometimes we think we have to say the thing the right way. We have to pray the right way and pray the right prayer and say, oh, Heavenly Father, thouest of heaven and creator of all things. We just start to pray in KJV. We pray in the King James Version, all right? And we think God's going to hear us better. Do you think this guy was in any way eloquent when he asked this? No. Jesus just said, all right, let's do it. Let's go. So, yeah, he saw his heart. So when he went with him, a large crowd was following and pressing against him. All right? So imagine Jesus trying to get through the narrow streets of Capernaum. Imagine Dad leading the way. You think he's pushing people away? What would you be doing, Mike? Yeah. Can you imagine what Jairus is doing? Pardon me? Do you mind if we get by? Excuse me, tapping people on the shoulder. Excuse me, we were wanting to get by. No. Jesus would have to stick around and start healing people as I'm going through here because I'm throwing elbows, whatever it takes, because my 12-year-old daughter is almost dead. And what's his mentality? I've got to get to her before she dies. Now, is that accurate? No, because how does the story play out? Well, I won't give it away just yet if you don't know the story. All right? So, Jesus with a large crowd following and pressing against him. Dad's decking people running through here. 25, a woman suffering from bleeding for 12 years. Is that a coincidence? How old is the daughter? How long has she been bleeding? Okay, when you have a baby and when you have bleeding, I would think you would go to the same type doctor. I always wonder if there's something there. I don't know. 12 years and 12 years, that's too much of a coincidence for me to just kind of run past, but I don't know what it is, so we'll just go with it. 26, and she had endured much under many doctors. She had spent everything she had and was not helped at all. How in the world does Mark know these details? That's fascinating to me. How would Peter have known all these details? Except that they sat down and talked with her at some point. That she came over to the house, at Jairus' house, and had dinner. I don't know. Somehow, it's not like you're doing an interview with her on the street here. All right? I don't think that happened, but anyway. She endured much under many doctors. She had spent everything she had and was not helped at all. On the contrary, she became even worse. Having heard about Jesus, she came behind him in the crowd and touched his robe. Now, the other Gospels say specifically what? Touch the hem of his garment, his kanaf. All right? Malachi says, when the Son of Righteousness comes, he will come with healing on his wings. Healing on his kanaf, literally the tassel. It would be referred to as the kanaf. All right? And so she comes up behind him and touches the place where Malachi 400 years earlier had said, when the Son of Righteousness comes, he will come with healing on his wings, on his tassel, on his garment. So she sneaks up behind Jesus and has the faith to say, if I can just touch that, I will be made well. 27, having heard about Jesus, she came behind him in the crowd and touched his robe. For she said, if I can just touch his robes, I will be made well. I will be made sozo, saved. All right? 29, what's our word? Immediately, instantly, her flow of blood ceased. The man's hand, what was the condition of the man's hand? Withered. Same exact word right here. This flow of blood withered. All right? I'm not going into biology on that one. All right? And she knew, gnosko, she knew in her body that she was cured of her affliction. You ever felt cured before? You thought, this was wrong, and now I'm better. Something's different here. When I had a herniated disc in my neck, I was in a lot of pain. And I had surgery. They fused it all together, and I woke up that next morning, or I woke up after the surgery and went, I'm better. I'm not in pain. She felt that how quick? Instantly. But because she did what? Did Jesus go, oh, thou art healed? She touched the hem of his garment. She had faith to do that. It's interesting because she's sensing in her body that she's been cured. And then 30, immediately, Jesus realized, epigenosko. This is a deeper knowledge. Jesus realized in himself that power had gone out. So Jesus going, whoa, well, power just shot out of me there. All right, I don't know where that came from. And she's going, whoa, I'm healed. So you see that combination. Jesus feels the power and she feels the healing in this one moment without a word or anything being spoken. Just a neat story, all right? At once, Jesus realized that in himself, that power had gone out from him. He turned around in the crowd and said, who touched my robes? Which, this is a Peter moment right here. This is just Peter. His disciples said to him, you see the crowd pressing against you? And you say, who touched me? Everybody has touched you, Jesus. Every single person here. I think Peter just found the humor in that and found a great moment in that. And so I think he threw that into the story just for the fun of it. So he was looking around to see who had done this. Then the woman, knowing what had happened to her, came with fear and trembling. Again, we get this fear and trembling. All right? Should you be afraid and trembling in this moment? Well, you should be if you're a woman who's been bleeding for 12 years and you just touched the rabbi. Because what'd you just do to the rabbi? You made him unclean. Now he's got 7 days to sit outside the camp. All right? She falls down before him and told the whole truth. 34, daughter, he said to her, your faith has made you well, has saved you, sozo. Go in peace and be free from your affliction. When's the last time she knew peace? For 12 years, she has been unclean. For 12 years, everything she touches becomes unclean. Every one she touches becomes unclean. What do you think your relationship is like with anyone at that point? She can't do anything. She can't go to the market. She can't do anything. But Jesus says, now go in peace and be free. This word free, it's a Greek word, hugias. We get our word hygiene from it. Go and be cleansed, be clean. Not be clean for the moment. You're clean now. Go be clean from your affliction, mastigas. All right. 35. Now, here's what you got to back up on. So Jairus is leading the way through the crowd, right? Swinging, punching, and all of a sudden this lady touches the hem of his garment, and what does Jesus do? For how long? Does he go, never mind, keep going? He looks around. And he starts to just look around, and he's asking questions. Who touched me? Did anybody see who touched me? Because I just felt power go out from me. Who touched me? What's Jairus doing? Who cares who touched you? My daughter is about to die. All right? And isn't this sometimes how we pray? I don't care about anything else. All I care about is my daughter. Is that okay? It's honest, isn't it? I think God can handle our honesty. All right? A lot of good prayer moments in this because it's just desperation everywhere you go in this story. And he's fighting, and he's like, come on. I appreciate you want to have a conversation with this lady. I'm glad she got healed. That's awesome because I'm the synagogue ruler, first in the synagogue, and so I have compassion for her, but come on. While he was still speaking. To who? To whom, excuse me? Yeah, to the woman. He's having a conversation with her. Jairus is going, my daughter, hello, can we not move on? Yeah, I appreciate this. While he was still speaking, people came from the synagogue leader's house and said, your daughter is dead. Why bother the teacher anymore? Tell me what that moment's like. I mean, think just physically what happens to Jairus in this moment. Oh, imagine the doctor comes out and goes, we lost her. She's gone. The house is right there. We were, so if he hadn't gone over here, maybe if I had gone the day before, just imagine what's going through his mind. Imagine physically, I mean, it's just nauseating, isn't it? The thought of this. Why bother the teacher anymore? Now, what does Jesus do in this moment? That's what I love. Watch this. 36. But when Jesus overheard what was said, he told the synagogue leader, he told Jairus, I hate that he leaves it in that sort of third person, don't be afraid. Me phobos, no fear. Monon pistuo, only believe. Don't be afraid, just believe. I think he has to hold his face at this point. I get this image where, imagine the wheels that are turning, and Jesus is like, look at me, Jairus. Grabs him by the robe. Look at me. Let me see your eyes. Don't be afraid. Just believe. And is Jairus even hearing any of this? To me, it's just such an overwhelming moment. And Jesus just looks at him and says, don't be afraid. Don't have any fear. Because everybody's afraid in this story, right? Look at all the fear that's going on in this story. And he says, do not be afraid. Just believe. What does Jairus do? Okay. Oh, well, if I just have to believe, then come on. We'll take our time getting to the house. What's he like walking toward the house? He's just a mess. Zombie, just devastated, sick, nauseous, all of this, and he's walking to the house. 37, this is Jesus. Jesus did not let anyone accompany him except Peter, James, and John, James's brother, in case you were wondering who John was, because John's sort of insignificant, right? Even though he outran me to the tomb. Anyway. That's a Peter-John rivalry. It's fun to kind of note, all right? Now, this is the first occasion in which Jesus kind of isolates Peter, James, and John. And we have this idea that it was always the three of them and the other 9. Well, there's only 3 occasions on which Peter, James, and John are isolated. Only 3. This moment, the Mount of Transfiguration, and Gethsemane, at least recorded in the text. All right? So don't go too far out on that limb of Jesus had his 3 best friends and then the other guys. We got 3 moments. Now, are they big moments? This is the small moment. All right? Mount of Transfiguration, Gethsemane, kind of big. Okay? So I can work with you a little bit. But don't get weird like he did this all the time. They were always separated. It's only 3 occasions. They came to the leader's house, and he saw the commotion. People weeping and wailing loudly. He went in and said to them, why are you making a commotion and weeping? The child is not dead, but asleep. They started laughing at him. How'd that go over? Okay, I imagine you're at the house and you're weeping and wailing and you're so sad that this 12-year-old girl has now died, and some people say these even paid mourners that would do this job. I don't know, I'm kind of weird about that one. All right. And all of a sudden they go from weeping and wailing, causing a commotion, sad, and now they're laughing at Jesus. That's a big jump, isn't it? I wouldn't start laughing at Jesus. Yeah, it could be. But I wouldn't go with the laughing. I would be angry. If I'm the parent and Jesus just, why are you laughing? Or why are you crying? She's not dead. She's just asleep. I'm like, and who are you? And why are you in this house? Laughing is just an odd thing. Mark, the Holman translation is very polite. But he put them all outside. Yes, Jesus put them all outside. The verb there is not histemi, to place something. It is ekbalo. Balo means to throw. Ek means outside. So what did he do? He threw them out. Now, I don't know how literally you want to take that, but he ekbaloed them, those who were laughing at him. He threw them out, which I think he took great pleasure in doing that. Because when people laugh at you and you're God, and you throw people out. You ever seen the movie Hancock when the kid like taunts him and he grabs the kid and throws him up into the air like 5,000 feet and eventually comes down? All right, that's kind of the impression I get. But let's just say he was nice and he placed them gently outside the house. He took the child's father, mother, and those who were with him. All right, so get the picture of who's in the room. The child, the dead girl is here. Father, mother, Peter, James, and John, Jesus, 6 of them go in this room. They entered the place where the child was. Then he took the child by the hand and said, Talitha Kaum, which is translated, little girl, I say to you, arise, get up. Igairo, which it literally it's to be raised up. All right? I say to you, get up. 42. What word, of course? Immediately. Immediately the girl got up and began to walk. Why that detail? Because you're Peter, and you're thinking, holy cow, she was dead like 4 seconds ago. Now she's walking around. That's intriguing to him. She was 12 years old. That's the first time that's mentioned, by the way, in Mark. The other Gospels also pick up on that. At this, they were utterly astounded. It's the word existemi. Histemi is to be placed. Ex, not in place. That doesn't make sense. She was dead. We know she was dead. We know dead. We know how to tell dead. She was dead, and now she's not dead, and she's walking around. Mind blown. Existemi. This does not make sense. I can't place this. Then he gave them strict orders that no one should know about this. How exactly is that going to work out? The synagogue ruler's daughter, 12-year-old daughter, in this little sleepy town called Capernaum, dies. Everybody's around so they come from the house and say what? She's dead. Don't bother the rabbi anymore, the teacher anymore. Everybody in the town, everybody in the crowd. Can you imagine being in the crowd? Can you imagine being the woman who was healed? How are you feeling about this? Sorry. I could have waited. I mean, could she have waited? Because she said, well, he's on his way to Jairus' house. I'll wait. Maybe that's why she kind of did the sneak attack. But Jesus stopped. You know why? Because Jesus is not in a hurry. You think God should be in a hurry. God knows when he needs to be in a hurry. And it's probably not when you think he needs to be in a hurry. And sometimes you just have to not be afraid and just believe. So he gave them strict orders. No one should know about this. Let's all just keep this under our hat. They walk out of the house. Is the girl okay? What girl? Everybody's like, and they see her like running around the house playing. I guess she's okay. So they either think the people are crazy and don't know dead, or that guy just raised her. Jesus always knows they're going to tell. I don't think so. I think it's honestly Jesus fulfilling a prophetic scripture of the Messiah shall not appear until this day. So, and another text says, he could not travel as freely because of this. And I think in some way that, my personal opinion is that inhibited his ministry because word got around and he would have to travel differently than he would if he was just not known. So he gave them strict orders that no one should know about this and said that she should be given something to eat. Again, who thinks to write that? A big man who's like, man, I'm hungry. We've been out all night long. I haven't eaten yet. And he's giving her something to eat. Wonder if I can get in on that. Like, maybe I got a little extra chicken in there. All right. I don't know what it was. But for some reason, again, Mark, when you read Mark, and this is what I want you to do when you study the Bible and you read Mark, look at these details that are like, where did that come from? Why is that in the text? Is that important? No, it's just a detail from a first-hand witness. Well, she hasn't been dead long, so I don't know that she needed nourishment at that point. So it wasn't like it was. I think I really do. I think it's just a random comment that Jesus says, "Hey, get the kid something to eat." All right, like going to grandma's house. You want something to eat? Here, I'll fix you everything you want. All right. I don't know, but again, it's the personality of Mark, or let's say the personality of Peter being told through the lens of Mark, that these details come up. And so when you read Mark, and it's different from Matthew, all right? Matthew has a version, or a vision rather, of how does this fit in with Jewish context and Jewish culture and Jewish scriptures. And he filters all of his through these almost like sermons of Jesus that are all sort of filtered through that Jewish context. Mark is just Peter's remembering and telling big fish stories and saying immediately and next and then and then and then and then and then. And that, again, that's why when I talk to someone and they say, "What I want to start reading the Bible, what should I start with?" I always say Mark. I will tackle somebody before I tell them to read John, all right? Because John is awesome, but John is hard. It's got these long, long speeches of Jesus that you read them and you go, I lost the point. Mark, you could give Mark to a third grader and they would walk away going, that was a cool story. And so that's why I always encourage Mark. That's why I always go there with that. So, all right, any questions on that? Again, I think, I've said it before, I think this is Jesus' favorite day. Just that whole wind in the waves, just how freaked out they were, and then he comes and they get off the boat, and Jesus looks up and goes, well, this will be fun. And then they're like, oh, give us into the pigs. The pigs go over the side. They kick him out of town. He goes back home, and Jairus is there, and he's going through there, and he raises Talitha. Just a fun story. So anyway, any questions? Yes?
Okay, so the demons are in
Legion, yeah.
and they say, don't, it's not our time.
Right.
He sends them into the pigs. The pigs go over the cliff. Pigs die. What happened to demons? Are they being punished, or are they just now 2,000 demons running around trying to find somebody?
We have no idea. Absolutely. I mean, there's just no context that's going to let us know that one way or the other. I don't know why. We really just don't have any rationale for, God just hates pigs, I guess. I don't know. So he was ridding the Decapolis of pigs. I don't know. It wasn't like they said dogs or something like that, or cows or goats. Yeah, that's true. Of course, they're already possessed, so anyway. Yeah. As if he should have already done something. Yeah. Yeah, it's just an interesting take on this, because they wake him up to complain to him that we're going to die. And the implication of the pronoun is we are going to die. It's not we are going to die. It's not they're waking him up because he's going to die as well. It's, don't you care that we are going to die? And it's just an odd story, but it's honest. And that's what I like about it. And that's why I always encourage people, just be honest when you pray. If you think God doesn't care, ask him why he doesn't care. All right? It's honest, and God can handle our honesty. And they were just honest in this moment. And I think Peter remembers, I remember asking him, why doesn't he care? Now, what do you do with that 30 years later when you're telling the story? I asked him if he cared. Yeah, why did I ask that? Why did I ask that question? Why didn't I say, Jesus, why don't you do this? Why don't you save us? But I asked him why he didn't care. Or John. If it had been John, it would have said, and John asked, why don't the disciple that Jesus loved? All right? It's just an interesting story when you take it from that perspective. And again, That's why when you read the Bible, don't read it like it's just black and white words on a page and you just run right through it. There is a person behind these questions. There is a personality in this. So when you read the Bible, read it as such. And it will, you'll start to go in directions that you had never approached before when you really personalize the text like this. So, because Peter, before he's about to die, I asked him if he cared. What a dumb question. All right, but that's what I thought in the moment, or that's what John thought in the moment. He didn't care. Yeah, Mark. Yeah, a lot of begging. Hmm. Yeah, I think when you get to the end of this passage, it kind of cures us of the urgency of this life. Because you look at this story, everybody's in a hurry. Everybody needs something right now. You got to fix the waves right now. We're going to die. The guy's running at him. It doesn't say he was walking up and Jesus had some time and they discussed whether or not they should cast out the demons or not. No, he's running up to him, and then he's in his right mind. The pigs are running off the cliff. Jairus is running to Jesus. Then they run to the house, and it's just the urgency of all of this. But Jesus is never in a hurry. At no point is Jesus jumping up and, dramatic fashion. And yet at the end of the day, the only thing that dies are the pigs. Everybody else is okay. So all of that urgency and all of that running and all of that hurry, that's just human. Oh, sure. This is all a testing of faith. I mean, what does he ask him along the way? Every single person in this has their faith questioned. You've been with me this long and you still don't have faith? All right? It's just one thing after another. So, anyway. Anybody else? Questions? It's good. Again, I love this day. Hey, remember when I taught this at Tom's house? Yeah, we took our church to somebody's dock. And I told the story standing on the dock. And so it was neat because the lake was right there and everything. And so it was a fun night. No. Yeah. Well, at one point, Jesus chastises the people of Capernaum and says, if Sodom and Gomorrah had seen this, if the people of Tyre and Sidon had seen what you have seen, they would have turned, they would have believed, they'd still be here, and they would be judging you today. So it's almost as if the people of Capernaum they kept seeing it. It's almost like their eyes were blinded to this. So, and that may very well be the case. I think the disciples still were a little iffy. I mean, it says at the end of the day, at the ascension, and some of them still didn't really understand and didn't really believe yet. They weren't all in. So I think there was a lot of sightseeing. I mean, even with the feeding of the 5,000 and the aftermath of that, they were just looking for food still. It's just an odd thing that it wasn't this overwhelming response. But I think that's prophetic. Because again, if they'd all accepted Jesus as the Messiah when he came, who would have nailed him to the cross? So I think it was that, what I call it, the great I Spy game that they didn't see, they couldn't see, and they ended up killing him after he was resurrected. They went, oh, now I see it. It's been right in front of our face all this time. So God's the greatest I Spy player of all time with the Messiah. So. All right, anybody else? Good questions, good response. All right, going into chapter 6 next week, I think, yeah. And we'll go from there. Let me pray for us. Father, thank you for just this story. Father, I pray that we would slow down, that this sense of urgency we have about this life, that we would slow down, that we would look into your eyes, look into your heart, and that we would pace ourselves according to how you are moving, that we will trust you, that we will have faith in you, that we will recognize that you are ultimately in control of all things, and that we don't need to be in a hurry. Father, I pray that you would give us a healthy fear of you, your character. Father, may we never, ever feel comfortable sitting in your presence. May there be that healthy fear, that recognition of you are not like us. Father, don't ever let us feel so comfortable that we just relax in your presence and feel like we can do and say anything. God, give us that healthy fear of you so that we can honor you and worship you as you demand and as you have deserved. And I pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen.